They laughed. Trained engineers, credentialed experts, men who had built bridges and towers across continents. They stood in the Philippines, looked at homes made of bamboo, and they laughed. Primitive, they said, temporary, not real construction. But then, everything changed. The Philippines sits at the crossroads of destruction. 7,000 islands battered by 20 typhoons every single year. Earthquakes shake the ground without warning. Storm surges swallow entire coastlines in minutes. This is not a place that forgives weak design. And yet, for thousands of years, the Filipino people built their homes from something the rest of the world walked past without a second glance. Something that grew wild in the forest, something that bent, but never broke. Bamboo is not wood, it is not timber. Technically, it is grass. But inside that grass lives something extraordinary. Microscopic fibers arranged with the precision of an engineering blueprint. When force is applied, these fibers realign. They absorb, they adapt. They distribute pressure across the entire structure rather than fighting it at a single point. The tensile strength of bamboo, 28,000 pounds per square inch. Steel, 23,000. A grass, stronger than steel in tension, and it weighs almost nothing, unlike concrete, which collapses under its own weight during earthquakes. Bamboo is so light that gravity barely has a claim on it. It bends under the storm, and when the storm passes, it stands back up. When Western engineers arrived in the Philippines with reconstruction funds and modern blueprints, they were not impressed. To them, bamboo homes were evidence of poverty, a temporary fix, something to be replaced. One senior engineer said it plainly: bamboo is not a building material, it is what people use when they cannot afford real construction. Real construction, concrete, steel, permanence. They had the data from their textbooks, they had the confidence of their degrees. What they did not have was humility. What those engineers dismissed took generations to perfect. Filipino bamboo homes are built on a philosophy foreign to Western engineering, where Western structures are designed to resist force. Filipino bamboo structures are designed to move with it. The joints are intentionally flexible, bound with rope, pinned with wood. Every connection allows micro-movement, a controlled dance that absorbs energy rather than shattering under it. The homes are raised on stilts. Floodwater rises beneath them, not through them. The roofs are steeply angled, not for aesthetics, but aerodynamics. Wind slides off rather than catching like a sail. Every single design choice, made on purpose, tested not in a lab, but across centuries of survival. Typhoon Haiyan, the most powerful tropical cyclone ever recorded at landfall. 315 kilometers per hour, a storm surge over 7 meters tall, a solid wall of ocean moving at the speed of a highway. Rain that fell not in drops but in sheets of white. When it hit the coast of Leyte, the sound alone was described as the earth screaming. Concrete walls that had stood for decades, folded. Steel-reinforced shelters that families had run toward for safety, collapsed on the people inside them. Entire neighborhoods, gone. 11 million people in the path of that storm. More than 6,000 did not survive it. The destruction was so total, so absolute, that rescue teams arriving afterward could barely identify where streets had once been. And then, a rescue worker stopped. In the middle of that ocean of rubble, something was standing. Not one structure, several. Bamboo homes, traditional, rope-jointed, raised on stilts, steep-roofed, damaged, yes. A few joints loosened, a pole bent here or there, but standing. The families inside walked out alive. An elderly woman named Lola Inde, 72 years old, stepped out of her bamboo home and looked at the devastation around her. Her home had swayed all night. It had moved, it had flexed, and shifted in the wind. She had thought it was going to fall. It never did, because it was never designed to stand rigid against the storm. It was designed to dance through it. When the assessment teams arrived, the engineers who had laughed, they didn't laugh this time. One senior structural engineer stood at a bamboo house. He examined the rope joints that had shifted but held. He looked at the steep roof that had let the wind pass. He looked at the stilts that had kept the floodwater out. And then he looked behind him, at the concrete, at the steel, at the rubble. He later wrote in his report, "We came to teach. We should have come to learn. Because the Filipino builders had understood something that no textbook had taught him. That in the face of overwhelming force, rigidity is not strength. Flexibility is.